They say that a single moment can alter the course of a life, and on one bitterly cold January morning in New York City, that moment arrived for James Walker in a way that would resonate through every crevice of his existence. Desperation had at last overcome his stubborn pride. All he had ever dared to ask was $1, the simplest, most unassuming request imaginable, barely enough to buy a cup of coffee. Yet when, with trembling hands and a heart burdened by years of loss, he directed that plea toward none other than Johnny Depp, neither man could have predicted the intricate tapestry of events that would soon unfold. A tapestry woven with threads of hope, dignity, and the transformative power of human connection. For decades, James Walker's life had been defined by discipline, honor, and a deep-seated commitment to duty. In his prime, he had been a proud staff sergeant in the military, a man whose every step was measured, whose every decision was guided by principles forged in the crucible of service. Evenings in his younger days were ritualistic. After long hours spent upholding security and order, he would return home to share tender moments with his beloved wife, Sarah, and his bright-eyed son, Michael. Their modest home, though lacking in extravagance, radiated warmth and the quiet assurance of a life built on mutual respect and love. But the passage of time, ruthless and unyielding, had worn away at that once solid foundation. A slow, relentless cascade of misfortunes, first the insidious onset of heart problems and dizzy spells, then the crippling burden of hospital bills, siphoned away the stability he had so diligently earned. In less than a year, the familiar rhythms of his former life were shattered. The security guard job that had once been a steady source of pride gave way to sporadic shifts and dwindling income. With each passing day, the memories of a warm family dinner or the gentle laughter of his children seemed more like distant echoes, fading into the background of a harsh new reality. Stripped down to a few meager possessions, a battered backpack containing a couple of changes of clothes, a frayed military ID that had long ceased to evoke pride, and a faded photograph capturing moments of joy with Sarah and Michael, James found himself cast adrift on the cold, indifferent sidewalks of New York. His transformation was gradual yet absolute. Once a man whose confident stride commanded respect, he now shuffled along the pavement, swallowed by the ceaseless rush of commuters who scarcely spared him a glance. Every now and then, his weathered fingers would retrieve the 27 cents he clutched so desperately, counting them as if each coin were a precious shard of a long-lost past. To him, those coins were more than mere change. They were tiny reservoirs of hope, fragile symbols that maybe, just maybe, his life could be pieced back together. Late at night, amidst the dark silence punctuated by the distant hum of traffic, the memories of his former life would come flooding back. He recalled Sarah's gentle lullabies and the way Michael's eyes sparkled with unspoken dreams. Yet, as he sat on his makeshift cardboard bed, those memories served as both a comfort and a torment, a constant reminder of everything he had lost. The weight of regret pressed down on him as relentlessly as the winter cold, leaving him to wonder if his pride had become both his shield and his shackle. New York City, a sprawling metropolis of ambition and resilience, was at once a realm of dazzling promise and ruthless indifference. On that fateful January morning, the city presented a dual face. Towering skyscrapers shimmered in the weak light of dawn, their reflective surfaces catching the subtle hues of early sun rays, while below, the wind howled through the labyrinthine alleys and broad avenues, carrying with it the bitter chill of winter. James sat hunched by a busy subway entrance where the constant flow of humanity blurred into an endless stream of indifferent faces. Around him, sharply dressed businessmen clutched steaming cups of coffee, their eyes fixated on smartphones and glowing screens. Tourists, bundled in expensive designer coats and scarves, ambled along the sidewalks, their laughter and animated conversations filling the air, but never for him. In that moment, he was an unacknowledged fragment of the city's mosaic, a ghost whose presence was as transient as the vapor that escaped his lips with every labored breath. Every detail of the urban landscape seemed designed to emphasize his isolation. The polished marble of the subway platform contrasted starkly with the grimy, worn cardboard on which he rested. Even the light that filtered through the city's towering structures felt too bright, too alien, as if illuminating the painful gap between what life once was and what it had become. The cacophony of honking horns, chattering pedestrians, and the occasional distant siren provided a constant reminder of a world that thrived on momentum, a world in which his slow, deliberate existence was an anomaly. At times, the gusts of icy wind would sweep past him, as if trying to erase his very being. He would trace the edges of the cardboard with calloused fingers, feeling the rough texture beneath his skin, and in that sensation, he found both a palpable reminder of his struggle and an echo of the warmth he so desperately craved. In his solitude, the meager coins in his pocket shimmered with an almost sacred significance, a token of a bygone era when every cent earned was a testament to hard work and honor. Yet amidst the relentless pulse of the city, James's heart still beat with the quiet hope of redemption. Every fleeting moment on that unforgiving pavement was a silent prayer, a yearning for a miracle that could lift him from the shadows of oblivion and restore his sense of self-worth. Just as the weight of solitude threatened to crush him entirely, a sound, a low, melodic rumble, cut through the drone of urban life, and James's tired eyes lifted toward its source. A vintage black convertible, its chrome accents gleaming even under the weak winter light, rolled smoothly to a stop mere paces away. The vehicle, a relic from a bygone era yet lovingly maintained, exuded an air of rebellious charm and quiet defiance, a stark counterpoint to the unyielding modernity surrounding it. From the car emerged Johnny Depp, a figure whose name had long been synonymous with eccentric artistry and a countercultural spirit. Yet on this particular morning, beyond his reputation as a charismatic actor and iconoclast, there shone a rare quality in his eyes, a deep, genuine compassion. Clad in a worn leather jacket and accompanied by a sparse entourage that respected his space, Johnny moved with a languid grace that belied the frenetic energy of the world around him. For James, the arrival of this unconventional savior was nothing short of a revelation. In that brief, almost surreal moment, the boundaries between the glittering world of cinema and the raw, unvarnished reality of human suffering seemed to dissolve. Here was a man who had soared to the pinnacles of fame, a man whose very presence could fill a room with both mystery and empathy, and yet he moved among the crowd with an almost palpable sense of solidarity. His eyes, dark and introspective, briefly met James's own, and in that silent exchange, 1,000 unspoken words were conveyed. Recognition, understanding, and the promise of hope. It was as though, in that moment, the stark contrast between stardom and survival, fantasy and hardship, collapsed into a single transformative point. James's heart, long accustomed to the relentless ache of isolation, beat faster as he sensed that perhaps, just perhaps, his quiet plea for help was about to be answered. Summoning every ounce of courage that remained within his fragile frame, James rose from his battered cardboard perch. Each movement was a battle against years of accumulated weariness, a small act of defiance against a world that had rendered him invisible. His joints ached with the effort, and every step felt as though it were a monumental leap toward an uncertain future. Yet the fire of desperation and hope propelled him forward. When he finally reached a spot where even the few attentive eyes from Johnny's modest retinue could not ignore his presence, James paused. His breath came in short, ragged bursts, and his voice, soft, cracked, and laden with the gravity of countless unshed tears, broke the stillness of the cold morning. "Excuse me, Sir Ita, could you spare $1?" he managed to utter, the words trembling as if they carried the weight of a lifetime of silent suffering. For a suspended heartbeat, the ambient noises of the bustling city, horns honking, footsteps clattering on the pavement, the murmur of 1,000 busy lives, seemed to recede into nothingness. In that precious, fragile moment, time itself appeared to stand still, and the world narrowed down to the silent, profound connection between a desperate veteran and an icon who had unexpectedly paused to listen. Johnny's eyes, which moments before had scanned the crowd with the detached coolness of a seasoned artist, now fixed steadily on James. In them, a deep empathy shone forth, a recognition that transcended the boundaries of celebrity, wealth, and the relentless pace of modern life. There, in that silent dialogue, the simple, unadorned plea of a man reduced to his most basic needs was heard clearly, without judgment, and with an understanding that pierced through the veneer of everyday indifference. With measured steps that spoke of a quiet determination, Johnny moved closer to James. His voice, when it finally broke the silence, was both mellow and imbued with a gentle firmness. "Son," he said, his tone soft yet resolute. "I've seen you here. I know what it means to fight your own battles on the fringes of society. Tell me your name." "James Walker," the veteran replied, his voice trembling not only with the chill of the morning, but with a nascent spark of hope that had begun to thaw the icy grip of despair. Johnny's gaze softened as he noticed the faded military ID peeking out from beneath the worn fabric of James's threadbare jacket, a remnant of a life defined by honor and sacrifice. "Mr. Walker," he said, his words imbued with quiet respect and genuine concern, "you served your country with courage and integrity. You deserve more than to be forgotten on these unforgiving streets. I want to help you." A ripple of astonishment spread through the small gathering of onlookers, their expressions a mixture of disbelief and admiration. There was no flamboyant display, no ostentatious gesture meant to dazzle onlookers. It was a moment of simple humanity, a recognition that every life, no matter how diminished by circumstance, possessed an inherent worth that could never be measured solely by fame or fortune. In that charged exchange, the disparate worlds of cinematic fantasy and raw human struggle converged. James's humble plea, "Could you spare $1?" transcended its literal meaning, transforming into a symbol of vulnerability, dignity, and the courage to seek help. And in Johnny's steady, empathetic response, a bridge was built, a bridge that would carry James from the depths of isolation toward a future illuminated by possibility. Without hesitation, Johnny signaled to one of his trusted companions, whose quiet, attentive nod conveyed the urgency of the moment. In a series of subtle, coordinated gestures, Johnny produced his well-worn smartphone and began arranging a series of urgent calls. "Mr. Walker," he announced in a tone that combined the cool nonchalance of Hollywood with the earnestness of a true friend. "Come with me. I have something arranged, a fresh start that will restore the dignity you've long been denied." The door of the convertible swung open to reveal an interior that was a surprising blend of vintage charm and modern comfort, a sanctuary from the biting cold outside. As James stepped inside, the small entourage gathered around him with respectful deference, ensuring that every detail of his transition was handled with quiet care. The gentle purr of the car's engine and the soft strains of an old blues melody created a temporary haven, a retreat from the harsh realities of life on the street. Inside the vehicle, Johnny detailed his plan with deliberate clarity. "There's a room waiting for you at a partner hotel just a few blocks away," he explained, his voice a soothing mixture of reassurance and purpose. "It will be your safe haven for the next month, a place where you can rest, recover, and start rebuilding your life." Each word carried not only the logistics of assistance, but also the deep-seated respect with which he regarded James as a human being deserving of a second chance. "And there's more," Johnny continued, leaning forward as though to bridge the gap between their vastly different worlds. "I've spoken with a friend in the security field who believes that someone with your background, someone who's weathered life's storms, could provide invaluable insight as a consultant. They want to interview you for a role that values your experience and accommodates your health. Also, I've arranged a comprehensive medical checkup, with all expenses covered through a veteran support program I'm involved with. This isn't charity. It's about helping you rebuild your life with dignity." Each sentence, each promise, resonated deeply within James. For the first time in what felt like an eternity, he dared to imagine a life beyond the cold pavement and endless nights of isolation. In the warm confines of the convertible, as the city blurred by outside the window, the boundaries between his painful past and a hopeful future began to soften. As the car meandered through the sprawling streets of New York, a vivid montage of memories unfurled before James's eyes. The rhythmic hum of the engine became the backdrop for a silent film of his past, a montage of tender moments, long-forgotten joys, and the bittersweet relics of a life once lived with purpose. He remembered the sound of Sarah's laughter echoing through their modest home, the excited chatter of Michael as he chased dreams that seemed as boundless as the sky, and the quiet moments of reflection shared over family dinners imbued with hope. Yet, with each cherished memory came the sting of regret, a reminder of what had been lost. The proud, disciplined man he once was felt like a stranger, a figure from a past too luminous and too painful to reclaim. The pride that had once defined him had become a double-edged sword, shielding him from vulnerability, while isolating him from the help he so desperately needed. In the long hours spent on the frigid pavement, his mind wandered between what might have been and what now was, a constant inner battle between remnants of old glory and the stark truths of his present. But now, as the convertible glided past familiar landmarks, James felt something stir deep within, a fragile, nascent hope. Confronted by the gentle insistence of a man who embodied both the wild spirit of Hollywood and a deep compassion for the underdog, he began to understand that the pride he had clung to for so long might have been as much a prison as it was a protector. In that quiet, intimate space of the car, amid the soft glow of vintage interior lights, he allowed himself to share his story, bit by bit, detail by detail, with a man who truly listened. "Tell me about your time in service, Mr. Walker," Johnny asked softly, his tone both respectful and infused with genuine curiosity. "What did you do, and how do those years continue to shape you?" With a slow, deliberate breath drawn from the depths of his soul, James began to recount his 22 years as a military police officer, a period marked by duty, camaraderie, and the sacrifices inherent in protecting others. He spoke of grueling drills, the unspoken bonds forged with fellow soldiers, and the bittersweet truth that honor sometimes left scars that time could never fully erase. "I was proud to serve," he murmured, his voice heavy with both conviction and sorrow. "Those years gave me direction, but I also learned that pride, when unshared, can imprison you." Johnny listened intently, nodding as he absorbed every word. "Creativity and resilience," he remarked thoughtfully, "aren't just about making art or defying expectations. They're also about reinventing ourselves in the face of hardship. Your journey, Mr. Walker, is a testament to the strength of the human spirit, a reminder that even when life seems insurmountable, there is always room for renewal." Eventually, the convertible came to a gentle stop outside a grand, modern hotel, a structure that stood as a beacon of promise amid the urban sprawl. The hotel's sleek glass facade shimmered in the morning light, reflecting the myriad hues of a city awakening to possibility. As James was guided through the expansive lobby, he couldn't help but notice the meticulous attention to detail. Soft ambient music, warm lighting caressing every corner, and staff whose genuine smiles made him feel seen for the first time in years. He was led to a spacious room that felt worlds apart from the harsh realities of the street. The room was meticulously appointed, a haven designed to soothe and inspire. Plush furnishings, a bed adorned with crisp linens, and a window offering a breathtaking view of the city skyline, all conspired to create an atmosphere of healing and renewal. A handwritten welcome note and a small vase of fresh flowers on the bedside table spoke volumes about the care that had gone into preparing this temporary refuge. That evening, as James sat at a modest dining table in the hotel's restaurant, he was served a meal that warmed him in more ways than one. The rich aroma of freshly cooked food, the soft murmur of fellow diners, and the gentle strains of music combined to form an oasis of comfort. For the first time in what felt like an eternity, he allowed himself to savor the simple pleasure of nourishment. A hot meal that signified not just physical sustenance, but a rekindling of hope. In that peaceful setting, every bite was a reminder that life still held the promise of better days. As he slowly savored each morsel, memories of a life once filled with joy began to resurface, mingling with the promise of a brighter future. The room, with its gentle light and comforting silence, became a canvas upon which James painted the tentative strokes of a new beginning. Later that afternoon, James found himself in a polished conference room high within one of a renowned firm's corporate towers, a space where modern design met understated elegance, and every detail spoke of the limitless potential of reinvention. The room was bathed in natural light, streaming through expansive windows that offered panoramic views of the bustling city below. It was a setting that could have graced the pages of a high-end magazine, a stark contrast to the cold, lonely pavement that had marked his recent past. Seated around a sleek table were a panel of executives, seasoned professionals whose eyes held both the scrutiny of business acumen and the warmth of genuine interest. They welcomed James with measured smiles and respectful nods, as if recognizing that behind the visible hardships lay a wealth of experience and wisdom that defied conventional resumes. The interview began as a conversation, a dialogue that delved deep into the heart of his journey. James spoke of his military service, his years as a security guard, and the unforeseen cascade of events that had led him to this pivotal moment. Though his voice wavered under the weight of emotion, every word resonated with honesty. He described not only the technical aspects of his past roles, but also the life lessons learned amid personal struggle, lessons of resilience, honor, and the transformative power of human connection. One of the panelists, a seasoned HR director with kind, probing eyes, leaned forward and said, "Mr. Walker, your journey is extraordinary. It is not merely the story of a man who has fallen on hard times, but of someone who has endured life's storms with unwavering dignity. Your experiences have gifted you insights that no textbook could ever teach." The words, spoken softly yet confidently, filled James with a renewed sense of purpose. As the interview drew to a close, the panel extended their congratulations and expressed eagerness to welcome him into a role that would not only value his skills, but also honor the profound insights born of his struggles. Stepping out of that conference room, James felt as though he had crossed an invisible threshold, a bridge leading from the darkness of despair to a future where his past would serve as a foundation rather than a chain. In the days and weeks following that extraordinary morning, the story of James Walker's transformation began to ripple far beyond the polished halls of corporate offices and luxurious hotel lobbies. Local news outlets picked up the tale, a homeless veteran whose life had been overturned by the unexpected compassion of an unconventional icon. Social media buzzed with heartfelt messages, shares, and comments from people across the nation who found in his journey a source of inspiration and a rallying cry for empathy. Johnny Depp, whose own ascent from a troubled past to international stardom was well known, soon saw his actions become emblematic of a broader vision, one where art, individuality, and compassion intermingled to uplift those society often overlooked. In interviews and public appearances, he spoke passionately about launching initiatives to support veterans, the underprivileged, and all those marginalized by a world obsessed with appearances. True creativity, he declared in one memorable interview, is not measured solely by what we see on the screen, but by our capacity to transform lives through empathy and action. Mr. Walker's journey reminds us that even a humble request can ignite monumental change. Community organizations rallied around his story. Local shelters, veteran support groups, and even corporate entities joined forces to create programs that promised long-term assistance, housing initiatives, job training workshops, and comprehensive healthcare support. James was invited to share his experiences at community centers, schools, and public events, where he spoke candidly about his struggles, the burden of pride, and the ultimate realization that asking for help was not weakness, but a declaration of one's humanity. The ripple effects were immediate and far-reaching. Neighbors began reaching out to those in need. Volunteers organized food drives, clothing donations, and community fundraisers. And the story of a once-forgotten veteran finding renewed purpose resonated in boardrooms, classrooms, and dinner tables across the city. It was as if James Walker's personal transformation had ignited a collective awakening, a recognition that every life held immeasurable value and that compassion could be the most transformative force of all. Amid the unfolding change, an unexpected and deeply personal mentorship blossomed between Johnny Depp and James Walker. What had begun as a single act of intervention gradually evolved into a profound bond, a relationship that defied conventional boundaries of fame, age, and life experience. Johnny, struck by James's quiet resilience and the raw truth of his story, made it his mission to check in regularly. Whether through brief visits to the hotel where James stayed, impromptu phone calls during quiet afternoons, or thoughtful messages bridging the gap between Hollywood's limelight and the stark reality of the street, Johnny ensured that James never felt abandoned or forgotten. Their conversations, which began with pragmatic details and soon delved into matters of the heart, blended reflective introspection with forward-thinking optimism, a reminder that every individual's journey is worthy of compassion. One rainy afternoon, as the soft patter of raindrops composed a soothing cadence against the hotel's expansive windows, Johnny and James found themselves seated side by side in a quiet lounge. With a cup of steaming tea in hand, Johnny shared fragments of his own journey, a tale of wild ambitions, of nights spent wrestling with inner demons, and of lessons learned through the crucible of life's unpredictable twists. "You know, James," he confided gently, "art isn't only about escapism or spectacle. It's about rebuilding, about turning pain into something beautiful and meaningful. Your story is a powerful reminder that sometimes the smallest spark can ignite the brightest flame." James, his eyes shimmering with both the weight of past sorrows and the promise of a new dawn, replied, "I clung to a pride that I thought was my strength, only to realize it was also my prison. Today, I see that true strength lies in having the courage to accept help when you need it most. I never imagined that someone like you would take the time to understand my story. But now I feel like I'm finally being seen for who I truly am." Their conversation flowed deep into the late afternoon, weaving together themes of creativity, resilience, and the unyielding importance of shared humanity. In those moments, the chasm between a celebrated artist and a battle-worn veteran melted away, replaced by a mutual understanding, a belief that every individual's story was worth hearing, and that each person held the power to transform not only their own life, but also the lives of those around them. As the days turned into weeks, the mentorship deepened. Johnny's guidance was not merely transactional, it was transformative. He introduced James to creative circles, community workshops, and networks dedicated to social reinvention. Together, they envisioned projects that would leverage art and collective resources to support veterans, provide mental health services, and create sustainable pathways for reintegration into society. Their shared vision grew into a living testament that every act of kindness can spark a cascade of positive change. With the arrival of spring, as winter's chill gave way to tentative warmth, the profound changes in James Walker's life took on a momentum of their own. The once forgotten veteran, who had emerged from the shadows to reclaim his dignity, now found himself at the helm of a personal and communal renaissance. His new role as a security consultant was not merely a job. It became a platform from which he could share his experiences, mentor others, and influence a broader conversation about resilience and recovery. James became a passionate advocate for veterans and for those marginalized by society. His journey was chronicled by local newspapers, featured on television segments, and celebrated in community gatherings. In every forum, he spoke candidly about his struggles, the pride that had once imprisoned him, the pain of losing his family's warmth, and the ultimate realization that asking for help was an act of courage. His message resonated deeply, inspiring countless individuals to re-examine their own lives, reach out to those in need, and embrace the transformative power of compassion. Meanwhile, Johnny Depp continued to champion this emerging vision with relentless dedication. At interviews, charity events, and quiet gatherings with community leaders, he highlighted James Walker's story as emblematic of a larger truth: that genuine progress is measured not solely by artistic or financial achievements, but by the lives we uplift along the way. Through initiatives that supported veterans with employment, healthcare, housing assistance, and ongoing mentorship, his efforts began to ripple outward, touching the lives of hundreds, if not thousands, across the city. James Walker's transformation became a beacon of hope, a living legacy that would endure for years to come. His journey from the cold, unyielding pavement to a life of renewed purpose and dignity served as a powerful reminder that every act of kindness, no matter how small, can catalyze monumental change. In boardrooms, community centers, and quiet moments of reflection, the phrase, "sometimes a single dollar is all it takes," became a rallying cry, a call to acknowledge our shared responsibility to care for one another. Years later, as New York City continued to pulse with life, a vast, ever-changing mosaic of dreams and determination, James Walker's legacy endured as a testament to the transformative power of compassion. Each day, as he walked the streets he once trod as a forgotten veteran, he carried with him the indelible marks of his past and the luminous promise of a future reclaimed through resilience and kindness. On a bright, clear morning, as the city awoke to the gentle glow of sunrise, James paused on a busy street corner. The faces of passers-by, once blurred by indifference, now shone with quiet recognition, a collective acknowledgement that every life matters. In that moment, he recalled the fateful plea he had made on that bitter January day, a simple request for $1 that had ignited a chain reaction of empathy, opportunity, and profound change. As he stood there, memories of Michael's gentle words and the silent support of his newfound mentor swirled within him. A soft smile graced his weathered features as he thought of Johnny Depp, the enigmatic soul whose unexpected act of kindness had set him on a path toward redemption. The legacy of that day was defined not by the grandeur of celebrity or the spectacle of art, but by the enduring truth that every individual, no matter how lost, holds within them the potential for renewal. James Walker's journey, from a solitary figure on a cold sidewalk to a respected consultant and impassioned advocate for the vulnerable, remained an enduring reminder that progress is measured not only by what we create or achieve, but by the strength of our shared humanity. His story, now woven into the fabric of community initiatives and celebrated in countless testimonials, continued to inspire and uplift. It was a legacy built on the belief that every act of kindness, every small gesture, holds the power to light the path to a new dawn. And so, as the sun climbed higher over the city, illuminating its towering skyscrapers, bustling streets, and the myriad faces that filled them, one truth shone clearly. True innovation, true artistry, is measured not solely by what we leave behind on the screen, but by how we care for one another. James Walker, once a forgotten veteran, had found his way back to life, not merely through charity, but through the transformative realization that every humble request, no matter how small, can be the spark that ignites the brightest flame.